Amelia cheerfully went about her duties, meticulously cleaning her employer's house. Although she wasn't eager to return home, knowing that her alcoholic mother would likely mistreat her again, she still felt a sense of relief at having completed all her tasks for the day. She was always cautious to leave nothing plugged in, especially since there was a good chance her boss, Rayen, wouldn't come home. Rayen, a lawyer with a demanding schedule, was rarely around, and Amelia seldom saw or spoke to him. Just as she was about to pack up and leave, a loud thud echoed from the direction of the door. Confused, Amelia paused, recalling that Rayen wasn't expected home that day. The noise grew louder, echoing through the house. Her heartbeat quickened as she followed the sound into the living room. The thought of an intruder crossed her mind, prompting her to grab a ladle from the kitchen as a makeshift weapon, but when she finally saw the source of the noise, she was startled to find Rayen standing there, looking disheveled. "Sir, Mr. Rayen, you're back," Amelia said, masking her surprise. "I was just about to leave. Would you like me to prepare some food for you?" "No need. Come here," Rayen replied, his voice unsteady. As she approached, Amelia immediately caught the strong scent of alcohol. It was clear that Rayen was heavily intoxicated. His eyes were half shut, and he swayed slightly as he stood. Before she could ask if he needed help, he stumbled onto the couch, passing out almost instantly. She let out a sigh of relief and took it upon herself to help him to his bedroom, her conscience not allowing her to leave him in that state. However, her eyes widened in shock when, as she was supporting him up the stairs, Rayen's hand clumsily landed on her chest. "So soft," he mumbled, his words slurred. Amelia's face flushed. That's my chest," she muttered under her breath, swiftly removing his arm from her shoulder. Rayen collapsed awkwardly on the stairs, sitting in a disheveled heap as she hastily adjusted her clothing. "I never imagined that someone as handsome as you could be so indecent," Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible. Rayen didn't respond. He was struggling to keep his balance. Then, without warning, he reached out and gently touched her cheek, his fingers warm against her skin. Amelia's heart skipped a beat, and she swallowed nervously, caught off guard by the unexpected tenderness in his touch. Her thoughts were jumbled, unsure of how to react. Before she could fully process what was happening, Rayen leaned in and softly pressed his lips against hers. Shocked, she instinctively closed her eyes as his kiss deepened, his hand sliding behind her neck to pull her closer. Amelia's mind went blank, and she found herself responding to his kiss, swept up by a mixture of curiosity and an unfamiliar longing. They moved together, their passion escalating until they somehow ended up in Rayen's bedroom, neither fully aware of how they had gotten there. Amelia's body tensed as she felt him enter her, an intense pain overwhelming her senses. It was nothing like the romanticized scenes she had watched in movies, where characters seemed lost in pleasure. Instead, all she felt was a sharp, unbearable ache that made her want to scream. She wished for it to be over quickly, but her thoughts soon faded into a haze of confusion. As Rayen continued, the pain slowly gave way to a strange, indescribable sensation that made her pulse quicken. Her initial instinct to stifle her voice was overpowered by the growing intensity of his movements, and despite herself, she couldn't hold back the sounds escaping her lips. The night blurred into a series of overwhelming emotions and sensations, leaving Amelia breathless and disoriented, her world forever changed. The next morning, Rayen found himself staring at Amelia, who lay peacefully beside him, her bare skin illuminated by the soft morning light. He lifted the blanket, and his heart sank as he saw the traces of blood. In an instant, the hazy memories from the night before came crashing back to him. "Damn," he muttered under his breath, his voice tinged with guilt and disbelief. The sound of his voice stirred Amelia awake. Rayen's thoughts raced. "We slept together, with the maid." He struggled to comprehend how he had allowed himself to lose control like that. He ran his fingers through his hair, feeling a mix of shame and responsibility. His gaze drifted back to Amelia, who was now fully awake, her eyes wide with apprehension. I didn't realize you were a virgin," Rayen said, his voice unsteady. "I'll take responsibility for what happened. I won't run away from this." "Mr. Rayen, please. You don't have to." "No, I mean it," Rayen interrupted firmly, his guilt deepening. "You were a virgin. I took something from you that I can never give back." Amelia looked away, her voice soft but unwavering. "I'm not a virgin anymore because of what happened last night." Rayen's face flushed with embarrassment, a wave of remorse washing over him. He couldn't find the words to respond, so he stood up in silence, gathering his clothes. "You should rest," he finally said, his tone softened by concern. Amelia attempted to get out of bed to prepare his breakfast, but a sharp pain between her legs made her wince. Rayen immediately noticed. "Don't push yourself," he said gently. "I'm running late anyway, so I'll grab something to eat at the office." "But, sir, Mr. Rayen, you haven't eaten yet," she protested weakly. "I'll manage. You need to rest. If you need anything, don't hesitate to call me," he said, his voice carrying a sincerity that surprised even him. Amelia nodded hesitantly, watching as Rayen hurried out the door. Exhausted, she fell back onto the bed and drifted into a deep sleep. Hours later, she woke up, took a long shower and began cleaning Rayen's room, including the blood-stained sheets. While she was busy scrubbing the bathroom, she missed a text from Rayen checking on her. At his office, Rayen grew restless when he didn't receive a reply. His mind kept wandering back to Amelia. Was she okay? Had she eaten? Was she in pain? The thought of her struggling alone filled him with worry, so he left work early and stopped to buy food on his way home. He was shocked at how preoccupied he had become with her after just one night. When he arrived, he found Amelia cleaning the bathroom, her hair slightly damp from her shower. "Sir, Mr. Rayen, you're home early," she said, looking startled. "I would have prepared dinner if I knew you were coming back." Rayen sighed, his frustration evident. "I texted you, but you didn't reply. And why are you cleaning the bathroom? Didn't I tell you to rest?" I can't just lie around doing nothing," she responded, her voice trembling. "I wouldn't feel right if I didn't do my job." Rayen's expression softened, a pang of guilt gnawing at him. "Fine, but at least eat something. I brought food. I wasn't sure what you'd like, but I didn't want you to go hungry." Amelia's eyes widened in surprise. You bought food for me?" "Yeah, well, don't read too much into it," Rayen mumbled, his cheeks tinged with pink. "I just didn't want you collapsing from hunger." A faint smile crossed Amelia's lips, the tension between them easing slightly. They sat down together, the air still heavy with unspoken emotions, but for the first time since that night, they shared a quiet meal, each lost in their own thoughts. Amelia's stomach growled loudly the moment the rich aroma of food reached her nose, making her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Rayen couldn't help but chuckle at her obvious hunger. He began to put away the groceries, but Amelia quickly stopped him, insisting that he sit down and let her handle it. As they sat together and ate, Rayen found himself asking Amelia questions about her life, curious to learn more about the woman who now occupied his thoughts more than he cared to admit. Amelia answered his questions cheerfully, her eyes lighting up as she spoke, but Rayen noticed how she kept stealing glances at the clock. Her anxiety was palpable. She hadn't gone home the night before, nor had she brought her mother any alcohol, and the thought of facing her mother's wrath made her uneasy. Pushing the thought aside, she focused on her duties after they finished eating. She cleared the dishes and made coffee for Rayen, maintaining her cheerful demeanor despite her worry. Rayen watched her as she moved gracefully around the kitchen, unable to tear his eyes away. Her every gesture stirred something in him, an uncontrollable desire that made his body react instinctively. Feeling a rush of heat, he crossed his legs, trying to hide his growing arousal. "Mr. Rayen, are you done with your coffee, so I can wash the cup?" Amelia asked, her voice gentle. "No, I'm not. Not done with you. Not done with my coffee," Rayen stammered, his frustration evident. He cursed himself internally for his slip of the tongue, embarrassed by his own lack of control. Amelia looked at him with concern. His face was tense, his knuckles white as he gripped his seat. Worried that he was in pain, she gently touched his arm. "Are you okay, Mr. Rayen? You don't look well." Rayen's heart raced at her touch. He could feel himself losing his self-restraint. "Aren't you planning to go home?" he asked, his voice strained. Amelia hesitated. I don't want to go home yet." Rayen's eyes darkened, a battle raging inside him. He wanted her to stay, but was terrified of repeating his mistakes. I'm afraid I can't control myself. If you stay, I might do something wrong again." Amelia looked at him, puzzled. "Why would you do something wrong? Did I do something to upset you?" Rayen's resolve shattered. The way she looked at him, so innocent, so genuine, made him ache inside. Without another word, he reached out and pulled her close, his lips crashing onto hers. Amelia gasped in shock, but soon found herself melting into his kiss. Her mind went blank, her body responding instinctively as his passion consumed her. They tumbled into another night of heated intimacy, their bodies moving together in perfect harmony. This time, it wasn't just lust driving Rayen. There was a tenderness, an unspoken emotion he couldn't put into words. And for Amelia, every touch, every whispered breath made her feel wanted, needed in a way she had never experienced before. The next morning, Amelia woke up with her body trembling, her legs weak from the night's intensity. Yet a soft smile played on her lips. Her eyes fell on a note left on the bedside table, neatly placed next to a small paper bag. Curious, she opened it and found new clothes and underwear, clearly bought just for her. Her heart fluttered at the thoughtfulness behind the gesture. Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with text messages from Rayen, asking how she was feeling and if she had eaten. His concern warmed her heart, making her feel as if they were a real couple. From that day onward, Amelia never returned to her mother's house. Rayen began coming home at a reasonable hour just to be with her, his once empty mansion now filled with warmth and laughter. They made love nearly every night, a routine that quickly became their shared secret. Rayen grew accustomed to her presence, unable to imagine his home without her in it. Her smile became the highlight of his day, her laughter the music that played in his mind even when they were apart. Yet, as Rayen became more addicted to her presence, Amelia felt a growing heaviness in her heart. She was undeniably in love with him, but a lingering sadness shadowed her happiness. Deep down, she wondered if his affection was real or merely a consequence of their physical closeness. She was living in a dream, but every dream had an end, and she feared waking up to a reality where Rayen didn't truly love her. "Why are you cleaning again?" Rayen asked, his brows furrowing with concern. "Aren't you forgetting that this is my responsibility? You don't need to lift a finger anymore. I can take care of you." Amelia paused, her grip tightening on the rag she was using. "That doesn't feel right. Just because we're involved doesn't mean I should stop doing my job. I'm still your housekeeper, even if I'm sleeping with my boss." Her words cut through him like a blade. Rayen was taken aback by her bluntness, unsure of what he had done to warrant such coldness. In an effort to make amends, he began showering her with gifts, new clothes, jewelry, even flowers. Yet each present seemed to weigh heavier on Amelia's heart. To her, the gifts felt transactional, as if their intimacy was a service she was being compensated for. She couldn't shake the growing emptiness inside her. Several times, she tried to ask Rayen what she meant to him. Did he see her as a lover, or was she merely a convenient distraction? Sometimes he treated her with tenderness, as if she were his girlfriend, but other times he was distant, his gifts feeling more like payments than gestures of affection. Their relationship settled into a routine. Amelia woke up alone because Rayen always left early for work. During the day, they exchanged brief text messages or spoke on the phone during his spare moments. In the evenings, Rayen would return home with takeout or small presents, occasionally bringing her flowers. Every time he did, Amelia's heart ached with hope, only to be weighed down by uncertainty. She yearned for something more, a real relationship built on love, not convenience, but she was too afraid to ask, worried that her dreams would be shattered by his answer. One night, after they had made love, they lay tangled together beneath the sheets. Rayen held her close, his fingers lazily tracing circles on her bare shoulder. But as he whispered playful jokes and stories into her ear, he noticed the faraway look in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Rayen teased, trying to tickle her to lighten the mood. Amelia flinched, forcing a laugh. "Stop it. I just have a lot on my mind." Rayen's smile faded, replaced with genuine concern. "What are you thinking about?" Amelia took a deep breath, hesitating. Sometimes you talk a lot after nights like this. You keep me up all night with your stories about movies and work, but I've been thinking about something more serious." Rayen's heart skipped a beat, sensing the weight of her words. "Okay, I'm listening." Amelia looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "What am I to you, Rayen? I know I'm just your maid, but what is this? What are we doing?" Rayen's chest tightened as he tried to find the right words. He had been dreading this conversation, yet he knew it was inevitable. "What do you think we're doing?" he asked, his voice cautious. Amelia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I feel like I'm just your outlet, like it's part of my job to give myself to you. But the more this continues, the more I find myself wanting more. I think I might be falling for you." Rayen felt his heart race, her vulnerability piercing through his defenses. He sat up, taking her hands gently in his. His fingers lingered on her soft skin as he brought her hands to his lips, kissing them tenderly. "I never meant to make you feel that way. I never meant for this to be one-sided." Amelia looked up at him, her eyes filled with hope and fear. "Then what am I to you, Rayen?" He sighed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his own emotions. "You're everything to me, Amelia. I won't lie. I've become addicted to you, not just to the sex, but to every little thing about you. The way you smile, the way you care so selflessly. I can't stop myself from wanting to hold you, from wanting to come home just to see your face." Amelia's lip trembled as she fought back tears. "But I'm just your maid, just the woman who cleans your house." Rayen's expression softened, his fingers brushing a tear from her cheek. "No, you're so much more than that. Ever since the first night, I haven't been able to look at you the same way. You changed everything for me, Amelia. You make me feel alive." Her eyes widened in shock, hope sparking in her heart. Then why do you keep buying me gifts? It feels like I'm being paid for my time." Rayen's face fell as he realized his mistake. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I just wanted to make you happy. I wanted to give you everything you deserve, because you deserve so much more than I could ever give." Amelia's shoulders sagged with relief, but uncertainty still clouded her gaze. "Rayen, I don't want your money. I don't want your gifts. I just want you. I want to be more than just the woman who keeps your bed warm." Rayen's heart ached at the vulnerability in her voice. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "You already are, Amelia. You mean more to me than you could ever know. I don't care that you're my maid, and I don't care about your past. I care about you, about who you are." But, I'm not the right woman for you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never went to college. I don't have a fancy job. I don't fit into your world." Rayen cupped her face in his hands, his eyes burning with intensity. "I don't want someone who fits into my world. I want you, just as you are." Amelia's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding wildly. "Rayen, I don't care about the past. I don't care about status or money. I care about how you make me feel. How you make me want to be a better man." Rayen confessed, his voice trembling with emotion. "I've never felt this way about anyone before." Tears slipped down Amelia's cheeks as she leaned into his touch, her heart finally feeling free. For the first time since their relationship began, she felt seen, truly seen for who she was. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the weight of their confessions sink in. The distance between them had been bridged, their fears laid bare, and for the first time they both felt the hope of a future beyond labels, beyond doubt, a future where they could truly belong to each other. "Why do you think that's all you're capable of?" Rayen asked, his voice laced with genuine concern. "You should be proud of yourself for earning an honest living. You work harder than anyone I know. And listen, I'm not saying this to brag, but I have a good job and a decent salary. You don't have to push yourself so hard. I don't want you to feel burdened. When I buy you things, it's not out of obligation. It's my way of saying thank you for everything you do around here, and because I want to see you happy. I want you to feel secure." Amelia's eyes filled with tears, her heart swelling with emotions she hadn't realized she was holding back. She had misjudged him, mistaking his generosity for something superficial, when in reality, every gesture had been filled with love and care. I'm so lucky to have met you, Rayen," she whispered, her voice trembling with raw emotion. I'm sorry for ever doubting you." Rayen reached out, his fingers brushing away a stray tear from her cheek. "You don't have to apologize. If anyone should be sorry, it's me. I should have been clearer with my feelings from the start." Amelia smiled through her tears, the warmth of his touch easing her insecurities. Without another word, she wrapped her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly. Rayen held her close, relief washing over him. Finally, she was letting him in, letting him love her without hesitation or fear. From that moment on, Rayen was more attentive than ever. He never pressured her into intimacy, choosing instead to express his affection in different ways. He took her out on dates, exploring the city together, or simply staying in to watch movies, savoring each other's presence. Their relationship deepened with every shared laugh and whispered conversation. Amelia found herself missing their nights of passion, but she was touched by Rayen's patience. His gentle courtship made her feel cherished, not just wanted. He proved to her, time and time again, that she was more than just a housekeeper or a lover. She was someone he truly cared for. "Are we going out again tomorrow?" Amelia asked one evening, her eyes bright with anticipation. Rayen hesitated, a flicker of regret crossing his face. "I'd love to, but I was late coming home yesterday because I was wrapping up everything at work. Next week, I've got a big case coming up, and it's going to keep me busy for a while. I might not have as much free time as I'd like." Amelia's smile wavered, but she nodded in understanding. "I get it. Your job is important. You don't have to make it up to me. I just want to spend whatever time you have with you." Rayen's heart clenched at her sincerity. "You're too good to me," he said softly. "I don't want you to feel lonely, not even for a minute." Those words sank deep into Amelia's heart. She had grown up feeling unloved and unwanted, and now, here was a man who went out of his way to make her feel cherished. "It's such a wonderful feeling to be loved," she thought, blinking back tears of gratitude. Rayen kept his promise. Even when his workload grew heavier, he made sure to carve out time for Amelia. Sometimes they went out for dinner or took spontaneous trips to the mall. Other times, they stayed in, cuddling on the couch, watching movies until they fell asleep in each other's arms. But as his big case approached, Rayen became noticeably busier. Late nights at the office became the norm, and Amelia often found herself alone, missing his presence. She understood his responsibilities, but couldn't help the ache of loneliness that grew stronger each day. She had grown accustomed to having him by her side, his warmth and laughter filling the house. One morning, Rayen called, his voice filled with excitement. "Dress nicely tonight. We're going out for dinner." Amelia's heart fluttered. "But aren't you busy with work?" Rayen's voice softened. "I've been so caught up with this case, and I've hardly spent any time with you. Let me make it up to you tonight." Amelia couldn't help but smile. "You don't have to, but thank you, I'd love that." She spent the rest of the day eagerly preparing, choosing her best outfit and doing her hair with extra care. Little did she know that Rayen had planned an entire evening just for her. After dinner, they strolled through the mall, his arm protectively wrapped around her waist as they browsed through stores. Amelia's heart soared, feeling like she was living a dream. But as they walked past a boutique, she noticed a woman glaring at her from a distance, her expression twisted with disdain. Confused, Amelia looked around, wondering if the woman was staring at someone else, but they were the only ones in that corner of the mall. A chill ran down her spine as the woman's eyes bore into her. Filled with jealousy and contempt, Amelia hesitated, her smile faltering. "Rayen, do you know her?" Rayen looked over, his face hardening when he saw the woman. His grip on Amelia tightened. "Ignore her, she's someone from my past. It's nothing for you to worry about." But the unease lingered in Amelia's heart. Even as they continued their evening, laughing and enjoying each other's company, she couldn't shake the feeling that this woman's appearance was a warning, a shadow from Rayen's past that threatened the happiness they had just begun to build. That night, as they lay in bed, wrapped in each other's arms, Amelia's thoughts drifted back to the woman's hateful glare. She wanted to believe Rayen's words, to trust that nothing would come between them, but deep down, she feared that the past he tried to leave behind might not be so easy to escape, and that someday, the love she had fought so hard to find might be challenged by the secrets he kept hidden. "What's wrong?" Rayen asked, his eyes narrowing with concern. "Why do you keep looking over your shoulder? Did someone catch your eye?" Amelia hesitated, her fingers nervously fidgeting. "No, it's just... there's a woman glaring at me over there." Rayen followed her gaze, his body going rigid when he recognized his ex-girlfriend Cleo. For a split second he froze, memories rushing back like a cold wind. Amelia noticed his reaction, her heart sinking. Before she could ask who the woman was, Cleo was already striding toward them, her eyes flashing with bitterness. "Well, well," Cleo sneered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I never thought your next girlfriend after me would be your maid." Rayen's jaw clenched. "What's it to you?" Cleo's eyes gleamed with malice. "Amelia, was it? Are you living with him now?" She didn't wait for an answer, her gaze sweeping over Amelia dismissively. "How disgusting. Rayen, you have such a successful career, and you're throwing it all away for a maid who can't give you any real advantage. Pathetic." Rayen's face darkened, his patience wearing thin. "You only know how to use your looks to get what you want. You're just upset because you can't manipulate me anymore." Cleo's face paled, her mouth opening in shock before her eyes flared with rage. Amelia trembled, instinctively shrinking behind Rayen. The confrontation reminded her too much of her mother's harsh words and anger. Sensing her fear, Rayen reached for Amelia's hand, his fingers warm and reassuring as he pulled her away from Cleo's toxic presence. "Let's go, Amelia," Rayen murmured, his voice softening as he looked at her. But as they walked away, Amelia couldn't resist one last glance at Cleo, whose eyes were still burning with resentment. They went to a quiet, private restaurant for dinner, but the atmosphere was heavy. Amelia barely touched her food, her mind replaying Cleo's cruel words over and over. She felt small, insignificant, a maid who had dared to reach above her station. Rayen noticed her distant expression and grew increasingly worried, afraid she would leave him out of shame. "Amelia, come here," he said gently once they got home, his voice tinged with concern. She hesitated, avoiding his eyes. I need to wash up. I'm not feeling well," she murmured, her voice cracking. Rayen tried to pull her close, but she pulled away, her emotions spiraling out of control. She turned to leave, but Rayen quickly wrapped his arms around her from behind, holding her firmly. Amelia's shoulders trembled as tears began to fall, hot and uncontrollable. No matter how hard she tried to think positively, Cleo's words echoed in her mind, driving daggers of insecurity into her heart. She choked back a sob, her voice trembling as she finally confessed her fears. "Why me, Rayen?" she whispered, her body shaking. "Cleo was right. I'm just a housekeeper. I didn't understand why I kept looking for you after that first night, but now I know. It's because I fell in love with you. But I'm not worthy of you. There are so many women out there who are better than me, who deserve you more. I'm nothing compared to them." Rayen's heart broke at her words. He turned her around to face him, his eyes locking with hers. "Why do you think you're not worthy? Amelia, you're everything to me. I don't care about status. I don't care about wealth. You've given me something no one else has. You've given me love, real love." Amelia looked away, her tears still falling. "I never finished school. I don't have a degree. I don't have a perfect body or face." Rayen silenced her with a gentle kiss, his lips warm and tender against hers. When he pulled away, his eyes were intense, his voice unwavering. "You're perfect to me. Every day I choose you because my heart beats for you. You're not just a maid. You're the woman I love. And nothing anyone says will change that." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. But Cleo said, "She said you were only using me, that I was just convenient." Rayen cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "Don't listen to her. Cleo doesn't know me. She doesn't know what we have. I don't care what she thinks. I don't care what anyone thinks. All that matters is that you're safe and happy and that I love you." Amelia's knees went weak, her body sinking against his. "You love me?" Rayen smiled, his own eyes misting with emotion. "Yes, I love you, Amelia, with all of my heart. And I'm not going anywhere." Amelia's tears continued to fall, but this time they were tears of joy. She threw her arms around his neck, holding him tightly as she whispered, "I love you too." Rayen kissed her forehead, his arms wrapping around her protectively. They stood there, embracing each other, letting the weight of their fears and insecurities melt away. For the first time, Amelia felt truly safe, truly loved. After that night, Rayen continued to shower Amelia with affection, proving his love in ways beyond words. He no longer rushed into intimacy, instead, showing his care through thoughtful gestures and gentle touches. He took her on dates, brought her flowers, and spent his free moments just being with her. With each passing day, Amelia blossomed, her confidence growing as she learned to trust in his love. But as Rayen's work grew more demanding, his late nights became more frequent. Amelia missed him terribly, feeling his absence keenly. She had grown used to his warmth, his laughter, his love, but she understood his responsibilities and never complained, even when loneliness threatened to overwhelm her. One evening, Rayen surprised her by announcing, "Dress up tonight, we're going out for dinner." Amelia's face lit up. "But aren't you busy?" Rayen's expression softened. "I've missed you. I need a night with just us." Amelia's heart swelled with happiness. She had no idea he planned an entire evening of romance, dinner, a movie, and even a stroll through the mall. But as they walked hand in hand, Amelia noticed a familiar figure watching them with cold eyes. It was Clio, her face twisted with envy and anger. She didn't approach them this time, but her presence was enough to shake Amelia's confidence. The woman's hateful glare followed them through the mall, a dark reminder of her cruel words. As they sat down for dinner, Amelia fell silent, her appetite gone. Rayen noticed her change in demeanor, his heart sinking as he realized Clio's presence had hurt her again. He reached for her hand across the table, his thumb caressing her skin. "I'm here, Amelia. Whatever's bothering you. You're not facing it alone," he promised, his voice firm. Amelia looked up, her heart aching with love. She squeezed his hand tightly, drawing strength from his unwavering support. For better or worse, she was his, and he was hers, and nothing, not even Clio's bitterness, would change that. The next morning, Rayen made sure Amelia could rest, leaving her a heartfelt note and breakfast on the table. As much as he wanted to stay, he had a new client waiting. But as the day dragged on, his thoughts kept drifting back to her. Her smile, her laughter, her warmth. He was already counting down the hours until he could go home. His day was interrupted by a knock on his office door. He looked up, his expression hardening when he saw Clio standing there, her eyes gleaming with a smug confidence. "What do you want?" Rayen asked coldly, his voice devoid of any warmth. "I'm busy. If you have no business here, I'll have security escort you out." Clio pouted mockingly, leaning against the doorframe. "Oh, don't be like that, Rayen. I was just wondering if you'd like me to drop by your house later and cook your favorite meal. You used to love my cooking." Rayen's eyes narrowed, his patience wearing thin. "Why would I want that?" Clio's smile turned wicked. "Because your maid, your girlfriend, isn't around anymore." Rayen's heart skipped a beat, a cold chill running down his spine. "What are you talking about?" Clio sighed dramatically, pulling out a folder filled with printed documents. "I did a little digging on your precious Amelia. Did you know her mother's an alcoholic, a good-for-nothing drunk? And Amelia, well, she's been running away from her pathetic life, trying to cling to you as her escape." Rayen's blood boiled. "What did you do, Clio?" Clio's eyes sparkled with malice. "I did what needed to be done. I showed her the truth, that she's not good enough for you. I made her realize she's a burden, and it looks like she believed me, because she's gone." Rage erupted within Rayen. "How dare you? Who gave you the right to do that?" Clio's face hardened. "I did it because I care about you. You've worked too hard to build your reputation. You can't risk everything on a live-in maid who's tied to a drunk. She was using you, Rayen. You're too blind to see it." Rayen stood up, his fists clenched. "The only one who's blind here is you. Amelia never used me. She loved me. You're just bitter because you lost your chance with me." Clio's face contorted with anger. "How could you choose her over me? She's just a maid. She's beneath you." Rayen's eyes blazed with fury. "You want to know why? Because she's honest. She's kind. She loves me for who I am, not for my money or my status. You never loved me, Clio. You loved the idea of me." Clio's eyes glistened with tears, her pride shattered. I did love you." Rayen's voice turned cold. "If you truly loved me, you would have never hurt the woman I love. You would have never tried to ruin her life." Clio took a step back, her shoulders trembling. "I did it because I thought you'd realize you belong with me." Rayen's face hardened. "You couldn't be more wrong. You cheated on me over and over again, relying on your parents' money and never taking responsibility for your actions. You threw away every chance you had with me. But Amelia? She never asked for anything. She loved me selflessly, even when she thought it would hurt her. That's the woman I want by my side, not you. Clio's face crumbled as tears spilled down her cheeks, but Rayen felt no sympathy. He turned his back on her, his voice cold and unyielding. Get out of my office. I never want to see you again. Clio ran out, her sobs echoing down the hallway. Rayen wasted no time. He grabbed his car keys and rushed home, his heart pounding with fear. When he arrived, the house was eerily silent. He called out for Amelia, his voice echoing through the empty rooms. He ran upstairs, bursting into the bedroom only to find it cold and empty. The gifts he had bought her were neatly arranged, untouched. But on the table, he found the credit card he had given her, and a note. Rayen's hands shook as he picked up the paper. Her handwriting was delicate. The words heartbreaking? I love you so much, Rayen, but I can't stand the thought of ruining you. Goodbye. His vision blurred with tears, his chest tightening painfully. He tore through his desk, frantically searching for her resume. When he found it, he drove to her listed address, asking neighbors if they knew where she was. No one could tell him. He went to her college, waiting for hours outside her classes, but she never appeared. Every night he returned to that empty house, haunted by the memories of her smile, her laughter, her love. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, his world falling apart without her. Meanwhile, Amelia was trapped in a nightmare. She was back at her mother's house, curled up in her corner of the small, crumbling room. The door slammed open, her mother's voice sharp and angry. You've got some nerve coming back here, her mother sneered. Where's the money? You think you can just run off and leave me to rot? Amelia's body trembled, her voice cracking. I don't have any money right now. Her mother's face twisted with rage. Then why are you even here? You're useless. Before Amelia could react, her mother snatched her wallet, finding the cash she had saved for school supplies, money Rayen had given her. That's mine, Amelia cried, trying to grab it back, but her mother's eyes turned wild with fury. She grabbed a broom and started hitting Amelia, each blow heavier than the last. Amelia crumpled to the floor, her body throbbing with pain. Please, stop. You can have it, just stop. Her mother's anger only ceased once she had taken every last penny. Amelia was left alone, broken and bruised. She crawled to her corner, curling up as tears streamed down her face. Her chest ached with sorrow, her heart shattered. She whispered to herself, "It's better this way. If Mom ever found out about Rayen's wealth, she'd never let him go. He's better off without me." But even as she tried to convince herself, her heart screamed in agony, yearning for the man who had given her more love than she had ever known. The man who would never stop searching for her, no matter how far she ran. Amelia's life became a daily struggle after she left Rayen. Her mother's abuse only grew worse, the anger intensified by learning that Amelia no longer had a job. Bruises and cuts marred her body, but the pain from her mother's words hurt even more. Every day she searched for work, trying to make ends meet. Yet, as she clutched her empty stomach, memories of the warm meals she shared with Rayen haunted her. She longed for his laughter, his touch, his love. But every time the thought of running back to him crossed her mind, she shook her head, forcing the idea away. I left him, she whispered to herself, her voice cracking. Who am I to crawl back, begging for help? I won't burden him with my mess. Meanwhile, Rayen was relentless in his search for Amelia. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but he refused to give up. He scoured every street, every corner of the neighborhood where she once lived. His heart broke a little more each day she remained missing, but his determination never wavered. Then one day, fate intervened. As he walked through that familiar neighborhood, he crossed paths with a middle-aged woman. Her eyes were sharp, her expression calculating. Rayen didn't recognize her, but she knew who he was the moment she saw his expensive suit and worried face. You look lost. Need some help? She asked sweetly, masking her intentions with a false smile. Rayen looked up, his eyes lighting with hope. Yes, I'm looking for someone. Her name is Amelia. She left my house without a word. I just want to make sure she's safe. The woman's eyes gleamed with greed. So this is the man my daughter's been living with, she thought, her mind already calculating how to benefit from the situation. Out loud, she said, Amelia, you say? Oh, you must be her boyfriend. Rayen's heart skipped a beat, relief flooding his chest. Yes, that's right. I just need to see her, to make sure she's okay. He showed the woman a photo on his phone, a candid shot of him and Amelia laughing together. The woman's face darkened as she realized her daughter had been living comfortably without sending any money home. "Well, come on then," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "Our house is just down the road." Rayen followed eagerly, his heart racing. He straightened his clothes, brushing off imaginary dust, his mind already imagining the reunion, holding her, kissing her, telling her how much he loved her. But as they reached the small, crumbling house, the woman stopped abruptly. "Wait out here," she ordered. "The house is a mess. I'll go get her." Rayen nodded, too excited to question her sudden change in demeanor. He stood outside, hands fidgeting, heart pounding, his mind filled with thoughts of Amelia. "I finally found her." Inside, the atmosphere was a stark contrast. Amelia was washing dishes, her body weak from hunger and pain. Her mother's voice cut through the silence, sharp and furious. "So this is why you lost your job?" she snarled, yanking Amelia's hair so hard she cried out. "You found yourself a rich boyfriend and thought you could just leave me to starve? Did you come back to get your things before running off again?" Amelia's eyes widened in confusion and fear. "Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a boyfriend." "Liar," her mother spat, her eyes blazing with anger. "He's outside right now, looking for you. He showed me pictures of you two together. You've been living the good life without giving me a single penny." She slapped Amelia hard, the sound echoing through the house. Amelia stumbled backward, knocking over a pile of dishes that shattered on the floor. Her body crumpled, pain radiating through her bruised skin. She tried to crawl away, but her mother grabbed a broom, striking her over and over. "How dare you keep secrets from me? How dare you defy me?" "Stop, please, Mom, stop," Amelia sobbed, shielding her face as the blows continued. Outside, Rayen heard the commotion. His heart dropped, fear rushing through his veins. Without a second thought, he burst through the door, his eyes widening at the sight before him. Amelia was on the floor, curled up, her arms covered in fresh bruises and cuts. Her mother stood over her, broom raised, fury twisting her features. Rayen's blood boiled with rage. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted, his voice echoing with fury. The woman's head snapped up, her face paling when she saw Rayen's expression. "Stay out of this," she screamed. "She's my daughter. I can do whatever I want." Rayen's eyes were dark with anger. He pulled out his phone and took pictures of Amelia's injuries, his hands shaking with barely contained rage. He marched forward, scooping Amelia into his arms. She whimpered in pain, her body limp against his chest. "Let her go!" her mother shrieked, clawing at him. But Rayen turned to her, his voice cold and menacing. "Touch her again, and I'll make sure you rot in jail." The woman's eyes narrowed. "You think you can do that? Who do you think you are?" Rayen's gaze was icy. "I'm just a lawyer," he said, his voice dripping with venom. The woman's face went ashen, her body trembling as she stumbled backward, fear finally breaking through her anger. Rayen carried Amelia out to his car, cradling her gently as he called the police. He didn't let go of her, even as she sobbed in shame, hiding her face against his chest. "You shouldn't have come," Amelia whispered, her voice broken. I didn't want you to see me like this. I'm so ashamed." Rayen stroked her hair, his heart aching for her. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing. Do you hear me?" He tilted her chin up, his eyes gentle but firm. "This isn't your fault. I don't care about your past. I don't care about any of it. All I care about is you." Amelia's tears fell harder, her body trembling. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want to ruin you." Rayen's heart broke at her words. He hugged her tightly, his voice cracking with emotion. "The only thing that could ruin me is losing you. Don't you understand that by now?" Amelia clung to him, her body shaking with sobs. Rayen held her close, his heart vowing to never let her go again. As the police arrived and her mother was taken away in handcuffs, Amelia buried her face in Rayen's chest, her tears soaking his shirt. But Rayen didn't care. He whispered soothing words, promising her that she was safe now, that she was loved, and that no one would ever hurt her again. That night, as he took her home and tucked her into bed, Rayen sat by her side, holding her hand as she fell asleep. He watched her, his heart heavy with guilt and pain. But as he kissed her forehead, he whispered, "I found you, Amelia, and I'm never letting you go again." Amelia sobbed quietly as Rayen drove her to the hospital, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, his jaw clenched in anger and worry. When they arrived, Rayen made sure she received proper medical attention, his eyes never leaving her side as doctors examined her wounds, documenting the bruises and scars for the medical report. It broke his heart to see her like this, fragile, hurting, yet still so brave. Once they were alone in a quiet corner of the hospital room, Rayen's voice was firm, his resolve unwavering. "I'm pressing charges against your mother." Amelia's eyes widened, her face pale with shock. "But she's my mother." Rayen's gaze softened, but his determination didn't waver. "Amelia, she's been abusing you for far too long. The bruises, the scars, they all came from her, didn't they?" Amelia's shoulders slumped, the weight of the truth crashing down on her. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, she's been hurting me for as long as I can remember." Rayen's fists tightened, his heart aching at the pain in her voice. "Then, it ends today. I won't let her hurt you anymore." Amelia's eyes filled with fresh tears, her voice trembling. Do what you think is best. I trust you." Rayen pulled her into his arms, hugging her tightly as she cried against his chest. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing at all. Do you hear me?" Amelia buried her face in his shoulder, her body shaking as she sobbed. But for the first time in her life she felt safe, truly safe. Rayen's arms were strong and protective, his love shielding her from the darkness of her past. "I want to go home," Amelia whispered, her voice weak but sure. Rayen's heart soared at her words, a smile breaking through his worried expression. "Then let's go home." Once she was discharged, Rayen took her back to his house, refusing to leave her side. He cooked her meals, brought her medicine, and stayed up through the night, watching over her as she slept fitfully, haunted by nightmares. But every time she woke up crying, he was there, whispering soothing words, holding her close, reminding her that she was no longer alone. Meanwhile, her mother was arrested and charged with multiple counts of child abuse. It turned out she was also wanted for petty theft and drug offenses. The truth was ugly, but Rayen didn't shield Amelia from it. Instead, he stayed by her side as she processed the pain, the betrayal, the loss. Amelia visited her mother in jail, hoping for some semblance of closure. But the woman was as bitter and cruel as ever, screaming and demanding money, showing no remorse. Amelia walked away from the prison visitation room feeling hollow, her heart aching with pity for the woman who was supposed to love her. When she returned home, Rayen was waiting, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you hurting anywhere?" he asked softly, his hands hovering protectively near her shoulders. "I brought your favorite chicken stew. I thought you'd like something warm." Amelia managed a weak smile, her eyes welling with tears. "You didn't have to do that. I told you I'm fine." Rayen's face softened, his lips curving into a teasing smile. "I think you'll recover faster if you keep moving instead of lying in bed all day." Amelia's smile grew, the warmth of his love soothing her aching heart. "You got me there." Rayen's eyes grew serious, his fingers brushing against hers. "I've been thinking about something, for a while now. I wasn't sure if it was the right time, but I can't wait any longer." Amelia's eyes widened, her heart skipping a beat. "What are you talking about?" Without another word, Rayen pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. Her heart stopped as he opened it, revealing a sparkling diamond ring. He gently took her hand, his eyes locking with hers, his love shining through every word. "Amelia, I want you to be my wife. I want to grow old with you. I want to share every sunrise and sunset with you. I want you by my side, forever." Amelia's breath caught in her throat, her vision blurring with tears. "Rayen, I don't deserve this." Rayen's face hardened, his grip tightening around her hand. "Don't say that. You're not perfect. No one is. But you're the strongest, most beautiful woman I've ever known. You survived so much pain, so much cruelty, and yet you still have the capacity to love. I'm proud of you, Amelia. I love you. Every flaw, every scar, every broken piece, I love it all." Amelia's tears spilled over, her body trembling. "I'm just me. I don't have anything to offer." Rayen cupped her face, his thumbs gently wiping away her tears. "You are my everything. You are my world, my reason for waking up every morning. You're the air I breathe, the smile in my heart. I would fight the whole world for you. When I couldn't find you, When you left, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. My heart was broken and nothing could fix it. I realized that I can't live without you." Amelia's sob turned into a soft laugh, her hands clutching his desperately. "I love you, Rayen. I love you so much." Rayen's eyes sparkled with tears, his voice shaking as he whispered, "Then marry me. Be my wife. Make me the happiest man alive." Amelia's heart felt like it would burst, her body trembling with joy and disbelief. "Yes, yes, Rayen. I'll marry you." A brilliant smile broke across Rayen's face, his arms wrapping around her as he pulled her close, his lips pressing against hers. "No takebacks," he teased, his laughter echoing through the room as she hugged him tighter, crying and laughing at the same time. Amelia looked down at the ring on her finger, the diamond sparkling beautifully. But more than the ring, it was the love behind it that made her heart soar. She had found her home, not in a place, but in a person, in Rayen. Together they would face the future, no matter what came their way. As long as they were together, nothing could break them apart. They were stronger together, their hearts forever intertwined, and this time, Amelia knew she would never run away again. She had found her forever. "I won't take it back," Amelia laughed, her tears mingling with her joy as she wrapped her arms around Rayen's neck. They held each other tightly, both overwhelmed with happiness, their hearts beating in sync. Amelia silently thanked God for bringing such a loving, kind, and patient man into her life. She never imagined that after all the darkness, she would find this light. A man who loved her unconditionally. Once Amelia's injuries healed, she returned to school, determined to finish her education. Rayen made it his mission to drive her to campus every day and pick her up afterward. On the rare occasions when his work schedule didn't allow it, he would arrange for someone trustworthy to bring her home safely. But more often than not, he was there, waiting for her with a smile, ready to listen to her talk about her day. Sometimes, nightmares of her mother would haunt Amelia's sleep, leaving her shaken and fearful. But Rayen was always there to comfort her, holding her close until the fear subsided. A year passed, and slowly, the shadows of her past began to fade. She learned to think about her mother without bitterness or pain, finally finding peace. More than that, she grew in confidence, embracing the woman she was becoming. The whispers and judgmental glances from others no longer bothered her. All that mattered now was her happiness and Rayen's love. One day, as they sat together on the couch, Amelia looked at Rayen, her eyes sparkling with a secret. "Rayen," she began, her voice tinged with excitement, "can you come with me for a checkup tomorrow?" Rayen's face filled with concern, his protective instincts kicking in immediately. "Are you feeling unwell? Should we go to the hospital now?" Amelia's lips curled into a gentle smile, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach. Rayen's eyes followed her gesture, widening as realization dawned on him. He jumped up, his hand trembling as he placed it over hers, his eyes searching hers for confirmation. If it's negative," he stammered, his voice thick with emotion, "then it's not meant to be yet." Amelia's smile softened. "But if it's positive, then I'm going to be a mom, and you're going to be a dad." "A dad?" Rayen's voice cracked, his eyes shimmering with tears. "I'm going to be a dad?" Amelia nodded, her heart swelling with love as she watched him process the news. For days, Rayen was an emotional whirlwind, caught between overwhelming excitement and the nagging fear of not being good enough. But his happiness won out, and his anticipation grew with each passing day. They went to the clinic together, Rayen's hand wrapped tightly around Amelia's as they waited for the results. His palm was sweaty, his nerves palpable. In contrast, Amelia remained calm, her heart already knowing the answer. When the doctor finally walked in, a warm smile on her face, she announced, "Congratulations, you're pregnant." Rayen's jaw dropped, his eyes going as wide as saucers. He turned to Amelia, who was positively glowing with happiness. Tears slid down his cheeks, which he quickly wiped away, his joy overflowing. Without thinking, he scooped her up and spun her around, his laughter echoing through the room. "Rayen," Amelia giggled, her hands clinging to his shoulders. "Put me down. You're going to make me dizzy." He set her down carefully, his eyes filled with awe as he placed his hand on her belly, his voice reverent. There's a little life in there, our baby." Amelia's heart melted at his tenderness, her hand resting over his. "Our baby," she whispered, her eyes shining with love. Rayen's protective instincts kicked in almost instantly. "Are you hungry? Do you need anything? Pickles, ice cream? Do you crave anything weird yet?" Amelia laughed at his anxiousness. "Calm down, Rayen. I'm only a few weeks along, I'm fine." But Rayen was anything but calm. He fussed over her constantly, making sure she ate healthy meals, getting her vitamins, and insisting she rest whenever she felt the slightest bit tired. In the beginning, Amelia found it sweet, but his overprotectiveness quickly became a challenge. "Rayen, I'm pregnant, not injured," Amelia said one morning when he tried to help her out of bed for the third time that week. "I'm not made of glass." Rayen's face grew serious. "But what if something happens? What if you fall, or... Amelia crossed her arms, her expression firm. "If you keep hovering over me like this, I'm going to lose my patience. The doctor said I need to avoid stress. You're stressing me out." Rayen's face fell, his shoulders slumping in defeat. But, I just want to make sure you're safe." Amelia's expression softened. "I know, and I love you for it. But I'm okay, really. Now go to work before you're late." Rayen hesitated, his eyes flicking to her belly one last time. "Fine, but if anything happens, call me immediately. I'll drop everything." Amelia laughed, pushing him towards the door. "I promise. Now go." As her pregnancy progressed and her belly grew, Amelia continued attending classes, determined to finish her education. But eventually it became too tiring, and she had to take a break. Rayen hired a housekeeper to help her at home, knowing he couldn't always be there. At first, Amelia resisted, feeling guilty about having someone else do her chores. But she quickly realized how helpful it was, especially on days when her back ached or she felt fatigued. Rayen continued to dote on her, his excitement growing with every ultrasound appointment. He would sit beside her, his eyes glued to the monitor, his hand holding hers as they listened to their baby's heartbeat. Every time he heard that sound, his eyes would well up with tears, his love for Amelia and their unborn child growing deeper. One night as they lay in bed, Rayen rested his head on Amelia's belly, his voice filled with wonder. "Do you think they'll look more like you or me?" Amelia's fingers ran through his hair, her heart bursting with affection. "I don't care, as long as they're healthy." Rayen pressed a kiss to her belly, his voice low and full of emotion. "I'm going to love this child more than anything, just like I love you." Amelia's eyes grew misty, her fingers tightening in his hair. "I love you too, Rayen, so much." Rayen looked up, his eyes shining with happiness. "You've given me everything, Amelia. A love I never thought I deserved, and now a family. I'm the luckiest man alive." Amelia's heart swelled with emotion, her hand resting over his. "We're lucky, because we have each other." Rayen's lips curled into a tender smile. "And nothing will ever change that, not now, not ever." As they held each other, their hearts beat as one, their future bright and full of promise. They had found their forever in each other's arms, and nothing could break the bond they had created. A love that had survived pain, fear, and loss, emerging stronger than ever before. Together they were unbreakable, and together they would build a life filled with love, laughter, and the miracle of new beginnings. Everything was perfect as Amelia's due date approached. Rayen took leave from work, determined to be by her side for every moment. His excitement was palpable. He spent hours talking to her belly, singing softly and imagining their future as a family. "What should we name the baby?" Amelia mused one evening, leaning against Rayen's shoulder as they cuddled on the couch. Rayen's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I was thinking, Amelia. I can already picture her looking just like you, but with my personality." Amelia laughed, her hand resting protectively over her belly. "Keep dreaming. What if she looks just like you?" Rayen grinned, his fingers gently tracing circles on her bump. "Then she'll be the most beautiful troublemaker the world's ever seen." They shared endless dreams about their daughter, their love growing stronger with each passing day. Every night, Rayen would sing to Amelia's belly, his deep voice soothing and warm. Without fail, the baby would kick every time, responding to his voice. Rayen's heart swelled with joy, imagining the day he'd finally hold his little girl. But one night, instead of the gentle kicks they had grown used to, Amelia felt an intense pain rip through her body. She let out a loud groan, clutching her belly as her face contorted in pain. Rayen's eyes snapped open, his body jolting upright. Amelia? What's wrong? Where does it hurt? Amelia's eyes were wide, panic setting in. She's coming. Rayen, the baby's coming. Rayen's heart stopped as his gaze fell on the fluid pooling on the floor. Her water had broken. His mind went blank, and for a second he stood frozen in shock. But another sharp cry from Amelia snapped him back to reality. "What are you standing there for?" Amelia shouted, her face flushed with pain. "Get the hospital bag and start the car." Rayen's eyes widened. "Yes, right, the car." He scrambled to his feet, nearly tripping over himself as he ran to the bedroom to grab the hospital bag. Every time he heard Amelia groan, he panicked, peeking around the corner to check on her. "Rayen," Amelia cried, her voice strained. "This baby isn't going to wait. Hurry up!" Rayen's hands were shaking as he helped Amelia to the car. Her body was trembling, her face contorted with pain. "It's coming fast," she whimpered, clutching his hand as another contraction hit. Rayen's heart pounded as he drove to the hospital, his foot heavy on the gas pedal. He kept glancing at Amelia, his face pale with fear. "Just hold on, love. We're almost there." Once they reached the hospital, Rayen frantically called for a wheelchair. Nurses rushed over, helping Amelia inside as Rayen stumbled behind them, his heart racing. Each time Amelia screamed, it felt like a knife to his chest. He was terrified, his hands shaking as he held hers, whispering words of encouragement. "You can do this," he told her, his voice cracking with emotion. "You're strong, Amelia." Amelia glared at him, her teeth gritted. "Easy for you to say, you're not the one pushing out a baby." Rayen swallowed nervously, squeezing her hand tighter. "You're right, but I'm here with you. We're in this together." Inside the delivery room, the doctor's voice was calm and steady. "All right, Mom, you're doing great. I can see the head." Amelia let out a strangled laugh, her face flushed. "You've been saying that for ages." The nurse smiled sympathetically. "Deep breaths, ma'am. Inhale, exhale." Amelia's eyes blazed with fury. "Don't you dare tell me to relax. Switch places with me if you think this is easy." Rayen tried to stifle a laugh, his heart aching with love and admiration. "Amelia, please don't crush my hand. I don't want our child to have a bald dad." Amelia let out a hysterical laugh, tears of pain and frustration streaming down her face. But Rayen's humor grounded her, giving her the strength she needed to keep going. "Push, Mom," the doctor encouraged. "One more big push." Amelia's face turned crimson as she pushed with all her might, her body shaking from the effort. She could feel the baby moving, the pressure overwhelming. With one last scream, she gave everything she had, her vision going white from the pain. Then suddenly relief washed over her, her body collapsing onto the bed as she heard the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard, a high-pitched newborn cry. Tears spilled down Amelia's cheeks, her chest heaving as she sobbed in relief. "She's here. Oh God, she's really here." Rayen's legs nearly gave out as he stared at their baby in stunned silence. His vision blurred, tears streaming down his face as he choked on a sob. He turned to Amelia, his face a mixture of awe and love. "You did it, Amelia, you did it." He kissed her forehead repeatedly, his hands shaking as he whispered, "Thank you. Thank you for giving me this miracle. I'm so proud of you." The nurse approached, carefully placing the tiny, wriggling baby in Rayen's trembling arms. He stared down at his daughter, his heart bursting with love as she let out a small cry, her little fists waving in the air. She was perfect, a tiny, delicate mix of both of them. Her skin was soft and pink, her nose a perfect little button. But it was her eyes that took his breath away. As she opened them for the first time, he saw his own reflection in her gaze. She had his eyes. Rayen's tears fell freely as he gently touched her cheek, his voice cracking. She has my eyes. Amelia, she has my eyes." Amelia smiled through her tears, her heart swelling with love. "She's beautiful. She's perfect." Rayen cradled his daughter close, his lips brushing her tiny forehead. "Welcome to the world, Amelia. Daddy loves you so much." Amelia watched as Rayen held their daughter, his face glowing with joy and pride. She knew in that moment that her life was complete. She had found her home, her family, her forever. Rayen sat beside her, his arm wrapping around her shoulders as he held their newborn close. "Thank you, Amelia, for loving me, for giving me this family." Amelia leaned into his embrace, her head resting on his shoulder. "I love you, Rayen. I always have, and I always will." Rayen kissed her softly, his heart full of gratitude. "We're parents now. We have a daughter, our little Amelia." Amelia's eyes sparkled with happiness, her fingers reaching out to gently touch her baby's tiny hand. Amelia's little fingers curled around hers, the connection instantaneous and unbreakable. Rayen's voice was soft, his eyes shining with tears. "I promise to protect you, both of you, for the rest of my life." Amelia looked up at him, her heart overflowing with love. "I know you will, because you're my hero, Rayen. Always." And in that moment, surrounded by love and new life, their story came full circle. From pain and loss to hope and joy, they had fought their battles, conquered their fears, and built a family from the ashes of their past. Together they faced the future, knowing that no matter what came their way, they would stand strong, side by side, hand in hand, heart to heart. Forever. Amelia lay in the hospital bed, her heart overflowing with gratitude as she watched Rayen cradle their newborn daughter, his eyes full of wonder and love. Her chest tightened with emotion, tears shimmering in her eyes as she silently prayed, "God, thank you for this family. I promise to cherish my husband and child. I vow they'll never experience the pain and fear I once knew. I will protect them with everything I am." She watched Rayen gently rock their baby, his voice soft as he hummed a lullaby. Little Amelia's tiny fingers curled around his thumb, her eyes wide and curious as she gazed up at her father. Amelia smiled, her heart full. She had never known that life could be this beautiful, that love could be this pure. Exhaustion pulled her into a deep sleep, but she woke a few hours later to the soft, whimpering cries of her daughter. Her eyes fluttered open, and she turned to see Amelia swaddled beside her, her tiny face scrunched up as she fussed. Nearby, Rayen sat in a chair, his head lolling to the side, his mouth slightly open as he snored softly. Amelia's heart melted. He must be exhausted. He didn't sleep at all last night. As if sensing her gaze, Rayen stirred, his eyes blinking open. He yawned and stretched, his face lighting up as he saw Amelia awake. "She only fusses when she's near you," he teased, his voice thick with sleep. "Our little girl's already a mommy's girl." Amelia laughed softly, her eyes crinkling with joy. "Hi, Amelia. Are you hungry already?" She carefully propped herself up, wincing slightly from the soreness, but her discomfort was forgotten the moment Amelia latched on, her tiny mouth suckling hungrily. Rayen watched them with awe, his heart aching with love. He moved closer, his arm wrapping around Amelia's shoulders as he kissed her temple. "I still can't believe she's ours." Amelia leaned against him, her eyes never leaving their daughter. "I know. She's our miracle." Rayen's lips curled into a soft smile. "We went from being 2 to 3, just like that?" Amelia laughed, her eyes shining. "And now, our lives will never be the same." The days that followed were filled with sleepless nights and countless diaper changes, but they navigated it all together. Rayen was a doting father, always ready to rock Amelia to sleep or sing to her when she fussed. They took turns staying up, exhausted but happy, learning the rhythms of parenthood side by side. When Amelia was 6 months old, Amelia decided it was time to go back to school. She missed studying, missed the sense of purpose it gave her. Rayen was supportive, encouraging her every step of the way. He hired a housekeeper to help care for Amelia while Amelia attended her classes, allowing her to focus on her education without worrying about their daughter's well-being. Then, the day they had both been waiting for arrived, their wedding day. They chose a small, intimate ceremony inviting only Amelia's closest classmates and Rayen's dearest friends. They wanted the day to be simple, filled with love and joy rather than pomp and circumstance. Amelia stood at the altar, holding Amelia in her arms as she looked into Rayen's eyes. He was her best friend, her partner, her love. Her heart raced as she spoke her vows, tears streaming down her face as she promised to love him forever, to stand by his side through every storm and every sunshine. Rayen's voice trembled with emotion as he recited his vows, his eyes never leaving hers. "You saved me, Amelia. You taught me what love really means. I vow to protect you, to cherish you, to be your strength when you feel weak, and your laughter when you feel sorrow. I will love you for all of my days." They exchanged rings, sealing their promises with a kiss, as Amelia babbled happily between them. As they were pronounced husband and wife, Amelia felt her heart soar. She had finally found her place in the world, in Rayen's arms, with their daughter nestled between them. At the reception, they danced under twinkling lights, their friends and family cheering them on. Rayen twirled Amelia around, her laughter echoing through the room as she held Amelia close, their daughter giggling as she watched her parents dance. The night was perfect, filled with love, laughter, and endless memories. And as they swayed together under the stars, Amelia thought, "This is the family I always dreamed of. This is my forever." After the wedding, life settled into a joyful routine. Amelia continued her studies, balancing motherhood and college with remarkable strength. Rayen was always there, cheering her on, supporting her dreams just as she had supported his. Their love grew stronger with each passing day, their bond unbreakable. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Amelia babbling happily on Rayen's lap, Amelia felt a rush of gratitude. "I'm so lucky," she whispered, her eyes misting with tears. "I never thought I'd have this, a family, a home." Rayen looked at her, his eyes softening. "You deserve this, Amelia. You deserve happiness, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you have it." Amelia's heart swelled with love. "I love you, Rayen." Rayen's smile was radiant. "I love you too, more than you'll ever know." 2 years later, Amelia graduated from college, her heart bursting with pride as she walked across the stage to receive her diploma. Rayen stood in the audience, holding Amelia in his arms, tears streaming down his face as he cheered for his wife. He had never been prouder. After the ceremony, Amelia ran into Rayen's arms, laughing as he spun her around. "You did it!" he shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. "You did it, Amelia! I knew you could!" Amelia's eyes sparkled with joy. "I couldn't have done it without you." Rayen kissed her deeply, his love pouring into every touch. "You're amazing, and beautiful, and brilliant. And now that you've graduated..." Amelia looked up, her eyes widening as she saw the playful glint in his gaze. "Now that I've graduated, what?" Rayen's grin was mischievous. "Now we can start on baby number 2. Amelia's mouth dropped open, her face flushing. "Rayen, Amelia isn't even 3 yet, and you're already talking about another baby?" Rayen shrugged, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Hey, I said we'd wait until you graduated, and you know, it wouldn't hurt to have a house full of little troublemakers." Amelia burst into laughter, swatting his arm. "You're impossible!" Rayen pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her as Amelia giggled between them. "Maybe, but I'm yours, forever." Amelia's heart melted, her fingers threading through his hair as she kissed him softly. Forever. Together, they walked off into their future, their love stronger than ever. They had conquered every challenge, overcome every fear, and built a life full of love, laughter, and dreams come true. And as they watched Amelia toddle ahead, her laughter echoing through the air, they knew that this was only the beginning of their beautiful journey. Together, forever, and always. What do you think? Did Amelia make the right decision? Would you have done the same in her shoes? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of love, redemption, and second chances. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey with us. We can't wait to share more unforgettable stories with you. See you in the next video.